Hey everybody, Mr. Eric here. Welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, I do lots of headphone reviews. And today we are answering that really big question: to phase or not to phase. So we've got the LCD2 Pre-Fazor, which has been a favorite of mine here for quite a while. And recently I had the opportunity to pick up a 2019 LCD2 Fazor model. And what I'd like to do is do a review of the Fazor model and give you some comparisons against the Pre-Fazor and let you know kind of my perspective on them and which one I am going to keep. So stick around, let's dig in. All right, so the first thing we have to talk about with the LCD2 is the packaging it comes in. Like most Audeze models, or at least the LCD line or the LCD2 line and above, I assume, they come in this big, very robust Pelican case. Inside, we open her up here and we've got, a really nice presentation, very secure, headphones, cable, and some documentation. So serial number, card of authenticity, you get your instructions and owner's manual and stuff on a little USB drive, and then just headphones and cable. So let's talk about the cable here real quick. It's maybe like an 8-foot long or so cable. You can see it's a very plasticky feeling, thick braided cable. It doesn't scream quality, but in function it actually works quite well, and I really have no complaints about it. It does terminate in just a 1/4 inch adapter, and so if you want to use it with something else like the Mojo or something like that, or some sort of a balance system, you're going to have to buy new cables or adapters, things like that. It's got the typical Audeze mini XLR connectors that clip into the bottom of each cup here. And yeah, that's all in all, a decent cable. Nothing that stands out as anything too fantastic to me though, but certainly it'll get you started anyway, and seems to have no quality issues as far as I can tell. Let's go ahead and get the headphones out here and give them a good look over, and we'll kind of scoot the big case out of the way. As always, I do appreciate these large cases that these headphones come in. I think they're really nice. Obviously, it's a very secure way to ship them. Outside of that, they don't really get used for me, since I'm not going to be, taking these LCD2s with me anywhere. But maybe you will. Maybe you take them back and forth to your office or something like that. I don't know. But either way, it's a nice case to have. The actual headphone here, if we start to take a look at it, is just, it's just beautiful, honestly. The wood, this is the shea wood model. You see mine has like a few little scuffs and things on them. I did buy these used as usual, but all in all, they're really, really good condition. Just a super high gloss finish on that wood, looks just absolutely stunning. Classic Audeze styling. It's got the new style suspension head strap, very comfortable. This one is all protein leather, so protein leather here and protein leather pads, which are very, very cushy, just wonderfully comfortable, wonderfully well made, just beautiful quality. I just love the build and the feel of Audeze headphones. You just tell there's just a quality product. There was love and care put into making these headphones. And also Audeze's customer service is just outstanding. So even though I bought my Audeze products used, if I send them an email and ask them for information on them or things like that, they respond right away. They tell me every bit of info they have on, like on this set of headphones, they told me the type of wood and the proteins and the original purchase date, all that stuff. And they actually told me too, it was still under warranty, even though I bought them used. So they said, the warranty, they honor it regardless of owner, at least for the drivers anyway. So very cool. Shout out to Audeze for their great customer support and customer service. Okay. So let's talk about the headphone. Let's look at some comparisons here real quick next to the LCD2 Pre-Fazor, which is kind of like the build and things before we get into the sound. So I've got those handy right here. you can see my LCD2 Pre-Fazor. This is the bamboo model, so obviously you can see the differences there. You can see the wood, the finish just isn't quite as nice as on the newer LCD2. Keep in mind though that this is a 2012 model, I believe, so this is 10 years old at this point, whereas this one is a 2019, so relatively new. Now, the other big difference between my headphones is the pads and the head strap. Now, I did purchase this head strap aftermarket for the LCD2 Pre-Fazor, but I opted to go for the actual leather model, which is a little bit more rigid, whereas the Protein is a little bit more flexible. I chose the actual leather because the pads on this one are actual leather, and I just wanted to keep it consistent across it. You can see there is a pretty big difference though in the pads as far as their thickness. So look at the difference there compared side by side on the front, and then if we flip them over and look at the back, again you can see that in both instances, the front and the back, the Proteins are much thicker than the LCD2 Pre-Fazor's older leather style pads. That being said, comfort I actually think is just a little bit better on the older leather pads. Maybe they're broken in better. It just seems like there's a little bit less of a clamp. I don't know, I prefer the fit and feel of this one. That's not to say that the newer LCD2s are uncomfortable or don't fit well. They do. This is just my preference. It just fits my head a little bit better. Outside of that, the build is, basically identical, I would say. Not a lot has changed, if anything. So, they've got their system and their design down, and it works, and I like it, and no need to change it, in my opinion. So, that being said, let's start talking about sound. Now, if you haven't watched my review of the LCD2 Pre-Fazor, definitely I'll tag that up here on the screen. Definitely go check that out, because I'm not going to go as in depth here with the audio of the LCD2 Pre-Fazor, but I will draw some comparisons between it and the LCD2, the newer LCD2 here with the Fazor. So, as I said before, this is my favorite headphone. This is, I love this headphone, and that has not changed regardless of trying the LCD2. However, I don't know that that's going to be the same conclusion that everybody comes to, because this headphone is just immaculate. Its sound is so pure, so clean. It doesn't produce the same kind of interesting quirks that the LCD2 Pre-Fazor does. So I'd say it has less character overall, but is much more accurate actually as far as things go. Certainly when it comes to imaging, this thing is very accurate, and I found it, to have good imaging in music, but I also found it capable to use in gaming. Now, I don't think I'd recommend it for gaming. Obviously, it's a big, heavy headphone, so long gaming sessions are probably a no, but it is possible to game with it, whereas that was pretty much my biggest gripe with the Pre-Fazor, was that it's doing weird things with the frequency response and imaging. It sounds lovely when you're listening to music, but when you're gaming, it throws things out of whack and it doesn't really work. So that's probably the biggest difference right there as far as things go. When we're talking about bass here, the LCD2 is it's got good impact. It's not quite as strong as the Pre-Fazor, but probably better detail, better texture overall. The mids are more in line with the rest of the mix, and kind of like all of the sound in the LCD2 Fazor, I would say, is just tighter and more together in the mix, where I think those little quirks in imaging and frequency response really add a very dynamic separation with the Pre-Fazor that just makes it just really interesting to listen to. So again, not accurate, but interesting. And when it comes to the LCD2 with the Fazor, the newer model, it's just good. It's just good, clean presentation. Like, everything sounds good. Everything sounds cohesive. The bass is detailed, the bass is textured, there's the appropriate quantity is there. The mids are back in the mix, not as forward on the LCD2 Pre-Fazor, but it's more in line with the rest of the mix, I would say. When it comes to treble, I would say that's kind of similar in that regard too. Again, wonderful detail, wonderful extension and accuracy on the LCD2. The LCD2 Pre-Fazor, I wouldn't say is less detailed, but it's less of a consistent presentation. So for my experience, the LCD2 was just so clean, just everything just sounded just beautiful and in place and precise and still enjoyable. This is still not like a bright headphone. It's not harsh in any way. It's still a very smooth, relaxed sound. It's just more accurate and less euphoric, and there's less emphasis on different points of the frequency than there are with the Pre-Fazor. So as I'm just looking through my notes here, and what I'm noticing is I just constantly am mentioning just how transparent I feel the LCD2 are. It's just, it almost lacks notable, like I almost don't even know what to talk about with it just because there's no real drawbacks to it. I mean, it's that clean, it's that transparent, it's that good, really. But at the same time, I feel like maybe it's just like a little bit too clean for me. Like I almost feel like I like my music just a little dirty, you know, it's just a little bit of flavor in it. So one kind of analogy that I drew when I was listening and going back and forth between the LCD2 and the Pre-Fazor was, you know, think of the LCD2 as like a really good cup of coffee, okay, but it's black. So you're not adding any cream, you're not adding any sugar, you're not adding shots of caramel or flavor or anything like that. So it's just a good, like, dark roast coffee. Strong, flavorful, but clean, right? But a clean, pure taste. Whereas the LCD2 Pre-Fazor is you take that same coffee, you put a little cream in it, you put a little sugar in it, maybe a little shot of something to give it just a little bit extra kick, and that's what these guys are. Not pure, but still delicious, and definitely a little bit more flavor to it. And I think really that honestly about sums up my experience here. Most of my listening was done for the LCD2 through my Mojo and through my Audeze Deckard DAC amp. And so definitely on the Mojo, these things are just clean, clean, clean. You put it on the Deckard, that's a Class A amp, and then it's a little more weighty, gets a little more warmth to it, but still just extremely neutral and transparent sounding. So, I mean, without trying to belabor the point here too much, I think these are both just absolutely wonderful headphones. I think the LCD2 Fazor is probably objectively the best, most accurate, while still being enjoyable headphone that I have ever used. Very technically capable, very detailed, very transparent. More so, I would say, than the GL2000, more so than the Focal Alex or Lear or so anything else I've tried. These are the best, objectively, technically wonderful headphones. That being said, I still prefer my headphones with just a little more flavor than that. So for me, I'm sticking with the LCD2 Pre-Fazor just because I just like what it does, and I have other headphones if I need it to be extremely accurate or if I want to game or do anything like that. So for me, this is still the headphone to beat. The 2012 10-year-old LCD2 Pre-Fazor. I think it's a little amazing that I'm saying that, but it just goes to show you that advances in technology don't necessarily equal better sound in a subjective sense. And you know what? This hobby is all about enjoying sound and finding what you like. So either headphones I could recommend, but this is my flavor. I hope you found that helpful. If you have any other questions that you'd like to ask regarding these two headphones, feel free to drop those in the comments below and I'll do my best to answer them and to get back to you. If you thought this was helpful, like it, consider subscribing to the channel. I will have more headphone and headphone related videos coming in the very near future. Thanks for watching. I will catch you next time.